Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning, CHLY's weekly current affairs show. I'm your host Joe Pugh. Here's what we're following this week. Hundreds of people came out to Orange Day in the Bay this past Thursday. It was likely the largest set of July 1st performances on Vancouver Island this year. I attended the festival and had the chance to talk with some of those involved. This week will also be remembered for the intense heat. I spoke with Dave Stewart, a social planner with the city, about Nanaimo's response to the heat wave. And with July upon us, things are finally starting to look a little more normal on the diamond. I was able to visit the Mid-Island Pirates of the BC Premier League and take in some of their game against Parksville. And finally, our neighbors in Duncan just became Vancouver Island's first bee city, taking the pledge to protect pollinators. I spoke with Vicki Wojcik from Pollinator Partnership Canada about what it all means. We begin, though, with a look at the headlines from CHLY's Elijah Robinson.
I am Elijah Robinson, and this is your Midcoast update. In the past week, there have been over 100 wildfires in the province, making up nearly a quarter of all wildfires in BC in the year so far. Although Nanaimo's temperature has dipped, much of the province is at high or extreme risk of wildfires, due much in part to the heat wave. One extreme example is the small village of Lytton, BC, which went from Canada's hottest location to its most dangerous, as a nearby wildfire spread to the village on Wednesday night, leading to a mass evacuation and the destruction of homes, businesses, and vehicles. According to Lytton locals, roughly 90% of the village, hosting about 250 residents, has been destroyed. As a reminder, the provincial fire ban is in effect this week and will remain so until October 15th or until otherwise rescinded. Lytton recorded a Canadian record high 49.6 degrees shortly before encountering the wildfire. In comparison, the harbour city got off easy, but the repercussions of the heat wave were significant province-wide. Between last Friday and this Wednesday, BC recorded 486 deaths in relation to the heat wave, which is nearly triple the usual number, according to the Provincial Coroner's Service. And the number is expected to rise as coroners continue to enter reports. The City of Nanaimo is currently recruiting 2 volunteer at-large positions for the Design Advisory Panel, or DAP. The panel reviews form and character development permits in relation to relevant design guidelines, good design principles, and conformance with the official community plan and related documents. DAP also provides independent objective recommendations to the applicant, city staff, and council aimed at improving matters of design that affect the public realm. Interested residents must submit a completed application form to the Legislative Services Department by 3:30 p.m. on Friday, July 16th, by mail or hand at Legislative Services 455 Wallace Street, Nanaimo, BC, V9R 5J6, or by email at legislative.servicesoffice@nanaimo.ca. Applications can be downloaded from www.nanaimo.ca or picked up from Legislative Services in City Hall at 455 Wallace Street. For more information on council committees, visit the city website at www.nanaimo.ca/go-to/committees. For Midcoast Update, I am Elijah Robinson.
This past Thursday, July 1st, hundreds of people came together for Orange Day in the Bay on Snaw-naw-as territory in Nanoose. I went to the event, and when I arrived just before 1, there was already a long line of people looking to find parking, with hundreds already inside the festival area. I'll let festival organizer Peter Hudson explain the event through some of his comments to the crowd as the festival got underway.
Today is about unity, support, recognition, and reconciliation. Today is a collective, and as a community, we begin the healing by listening to each other's stories. We have ceremony, we have speakers, we have culture, we have music, we have comedy, we have food. And that brings people together, and that brings unity. So are you guys ready for Orange Day in the Bay?
Following Hudson's comments, the show was in full swing with a string of musical acts and stand-up comedians entertaining the crowd. I was later able to catch up with Peter Hudson to check in on how he felt the day was going. Hello, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. I know it's super busy on the day. But now the day is here. We're halfway through the festival. How does it feel that it's happening?
Man, look at what we're doing. We're making a movement. Like, this is beautiful.
And hundreds of people out here. It must be. How does the turnout feel?
How does it? Oh man, like crazy. Like, it's more than I could even believe. You know what I mean? So I just appreciate everybody.
How would you like to describe Orange Day in the Bay to people who weren't able to make it out in your own words?
That weren't over to make it out. Orange Day in the Bay is a day of unity, a day of support. It's not anti-Canada Day. It's so we can all unify and celebrate together. Our Indigenous community needs support from the non-Indigenous community and everybody in this country right now. So I think we're starting we're starting it right here.
And given what you've just said, there's a lot of different types of performances here, ceremony as well as music. How would you describe the mood?
Man, it's just we're gonna take people. The ceremony was beautiful, but we're gonna take people on a roller coaster. You know, it's not too much of anything, but it's a lot of everything. You know what I mean? Like it's we're not putting too much together. We're taking people on a roller coaster. It's gonna be comedy to acoustic to hip hop to spoken word. It's yeah, man. It's I want people leaving here today being like, wow. I want to wow people. So that's what we're here to do.
And what would you like people to take away from the event?
To that I'm not a special person. You know, this is in all of us to do something right now. We need to take action. When people are hurting, you need to support them. We need to check out the Reconciliation Act. There's 90 Reconciliation Acts. The government's only dealt with a handful, 8 of them. We need to view these with our families and see what way we can help, because helping a small amount of energy can bring some very big things. So and there's power in numbers, and look at this, you can see how many people out here support it. It's a sea of orange, man.
And anything else you'd like to say about the day?
I would just say it's been a beautiful experience, a beautiful journey. I really appreciate the Nanoose people for letting us use their land, bringing us in, being very warm, and I'd like to thank all the people, all the sponsors, all the acts that volunteered their time, and all the people that came out today to support Orange Day in the Bay.
Peter Rutson, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thanks, man. Have a good one. Cheers.
Things were lighthearted and festive by then, but when I first arrived, the opening ceremonies had a more reflective tone. The first performance I was able to see was a prayer song led by Greg Charlson. Here's a clip of him introducing it.
We've got one more song to share, and this song is called Inner Child. And I think that's really relevant right now. Really relevant to what we're here for, to what we're praying for, to what we all stand together for. Inner Child in Nuu-chah-nulth is Asma Kemaktik. And being able to sing this song for you is really powerful. We sang this song for the MMIW with my sister Echo, and the words we changed a little bit just for the time. We would say, no more stolen sisters. So now we're changing it for this time that there's going to be no more stolen children.
And here's a clip of the song itself. Later on during the festivities, I was able to speak with Charlson during a Johnny Cash tribute act. You could just let me know your name and tell me a bit about your role today.
Okay, Ukla Sishkwayatsapat is stuck shit Heshkuyat Ahuzet. My English name is Greg Charlson. I come from Heshkwita on the west coast, and I live and reside in Snaw-naw-as and have become a part of the territory, part of the people. And the reason being is that we're all one. When our cultures come together, when people come together, we're stronger. As you see today, the amount of people that have come together for one purpose, the purpose of being able to acknowledge, to hear the truths, to hear what it feels like to hear the truth as a non-Indigenous person, and to be able to again draw empathy, draw compassion, draw love but also in ourselves draw forgiveness, because I think forgiveness is key in all of this. If we can't forgive, then we're going to self-destruct like we have been for generations, So I like to call it the F word, because it captivates people. When you say the F word, people will look at you and they know F words. But forgiveness is the ultimate F word. When we can find that, breathe that, and live that, life changes. I'm a residential school survivor, but I don't choose to carry that label that the government put upon us. I'm a miracle. Why? Because I'm still here when many of my family and friends are not here, because the traumas took them away. So being coming out here and sharing a prayer song, of all places, translated, came from Bible studies when I attended residential school. So again, reconciliation began with me and my family, me and my grandfather, me and my grandmother, for culture and for teachings, for those things to thrive, survive, and carry on. Reconciliation needs to happen within our own families. And that again is hearing the truths, the struggles, the hurts, without pointing fingers, but being able to draw those fingers back to our own being on how much we've hurt and how much we've hurt others. So, that's one thing that I learned from my grandparents was just that when we point our finger, three are back at us, So when we talk about things, we talk only about our own issues, and to be able to see the four colors of the spectrum represented, when you see that, and you see all of this representation here, this is the healing circle of life. We all fit in here. Everything fits in here. We've got the red race, the indigenous, the yellow race, the Asians, the white race, the Caucasian Europeans, the black race, the Africans, When we put them all on one spectrum, you can see what we have in common. Everybody has a heartbeat. Everybody has the same body temperature, And one thing that I believe that's going to come out of this, that everybody's going to realize we need everybody, to be able to say that, every child matters. As you can see, the orange shirt, the sea of orange here, and how important that is to bring the truths out so that the truths can be heard, shared, recorded, whatever it is, And again, we'll bring forgiveness, bring empathy and compassion, and all of those things that bring this all together.
Our conversation continued a bit later between sets. And could you tell me a bit about your performance today and what that means?
Oh yeah, the prayer song, bringing out the prayer song, for me again is all about the truth, and about my own family reconciling. The song came from all places, Bible studies in residential school, and bringing anything good out of it. That was the love for singing, and so being able to sing that song to my boys, to my eldest son who's 23 now, was love you in the morning, love you in the noontime, love you when the sun goes down. Ya kuksnas hupkusta, ya kuksnas tinas, ya kuksnas hupatu. My son got it translated by elders and language teachers in Hot Springs Cove and Nuchanas Heshkut dialect. And then second one is praying, Tsitsiking Nas Hupkusta. The third one is Usumch, going to the water, to cleanse in the water. The fourth one is Su'wa, kind of like what you see happening. You're coming back together in a good way. Su'wa nas hupkusa, Su'wa nas tina, Su'wa nas hupatu. Always making sure that you know who your family is and being able to keep them close. Friends become family. You start to own people because you trust them, because you've confided in them, because they've showed you empathy and compassion. Pretty soon you call each other brothers on that whole spectrum, having Chinese brothers, having white brothers, having black brothers, and those teachings come together when we're able to be empathetic and compassionate towards each other and the struggles that we all have.
And is there anything you'd like to say to people who weren't able to make it to today's event? Anything you'd want them to know or take away?
To support all urban indigenous schools that are struggling to make a place in today's society, to be able to bring overhaul to the education system. I work at the Tsawak Learning Center. That's last day of operation was yesterday. And Tsawak Learning Center is the exact opposite of residential schools. Residential schools were designed to kill the Indian in the child, where Tsawak Learning Center was a center that brought identity, that brought family and community together. And being able to build identity helps a young person to take their hoodie off, to take their earbuds off, to take their hat off in prayer. And when you see young kids do this, you know what the school is doing for them and their families. So, for anybody that's listening, we need to support urban indigenous schools, because most of our people live in cities and towns just like everybody else. That to be able to revamp and relook at what education system is today, it hasn't changed much since residential school. We had 14 graduates this year at Tsawak, which outnumbered the high schools here in terms of indigenous graduates. Why? Because identity is so important. When that young person can talk protocols about who their parents, who their grandparents are, which nations they come from, which nations their grandparents come. And not only indigenous, we have non-indigenous students there who are thriving as well. Why? Because this education system has so many cracks in it. And the transference of Tsawak to where it's going now was supposed to be seamless, but there was nothing seamless about it at all, because policies and protocols that the education system have in place are pretty rock solid when you have people with pretty narrow-minded views of bringing identity and education. Trauma-informed education. It's pretty hard to teach a young person with trauma unless you have stories, unless you have experiences that you can share with our youth. So,
Thank you very much. As I left the event late in the afternoon, there was a lineup of people dozens and dozens long looking to get in to see the evening's shows. A long winding orange serpent behind the orange sea inside the gates. It was the largest event I've attended since the pandemic started, and even with the COVID safety plan in place, it felt very normal. Walking back to my car, I thought about the huge crowd and the vibrant, positive atmosphere of the day. Even more so, though, I was thinking about the conversations I'd had and heard, both on and off the record, the stories that had been shared, and I'm thankful for having had the opportunity to listen. For Midcoast Morning, I'm Joe Pugh.
2, 2, 3.
Women are part of the earth, wind, and sky. Destiny carries your visions up high. See with a hawk's eye, soar where the eagles cry. Oh. Memories retold, names honored by time, sharing the stories, the reasons, the rhyme. Life is for choosing, for winning and losing the day. Oh, more is required. and cedar, sweetgrass and sage, gifts from the grandmothers down through the ages, given to others now, the wives and the mothers and daughters, grandfather, son, grandmother, moon, carry your prayers never spoken too soon, for fragile and weak ones, for those who can't speak on their own. More is required. Toil and never tire. Lift your voices higher. You are the fire. More is required. Toil and never tire. Lift your voices higher. You are the fire.
Summer Sage, one of the groups who played at Orange Day in the Bay, performing You Are the Fire. You're listening to Midcoast Morning on CHLY, also available as a podcast. If you remember one thing about this past week, it's likely the record-shattering heat. Here in Nanaimo, temperatures passed 40 degrees, creating dangerous conditions for everyone, especially those from a number of vulnerable populations. Last Wednesday, I had the chance to talk with Dave Stewart, a social planner with the city of Nanaimo, about our city's response to the heat wave. Here is our conversation.
As a social planner, my main work is supporting vulnerable populations. So one of the things we did when we saw the forecast is we called our partners in together, service providers, island health, and folks, and got together and had a conversation about who's doing what, compiled those resources, and identified some gaps. And one of those gaps was a cooling center. So we worked with 710 Club, the United Way, and the Canadian Mental Health Association in establishing the cooling center that's operating now at 285 Padot, and it's known as the Community Services Building.
And how has the cooling center been going so far? How has it seen a lot of use?
Yeah, I talked to the operator on Tuesday, since yesterday. My understanding is it was a little bit slow at first, but quite busy on Sunday and Monday. Those are the two hottest days, obviously, as well. So.
And some of the things with the cooling center, I just wanted to ask about, because of COVID, the capacity has been limited to 10 to 15 people at a time. And the cooling center also closes every day at 4:30. I'm wondering what the process was behind those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, COVID does make things challenging everywhere, but especially in this case. So yeah, the capacity is limited because of COVID, as you mentioned. But that being said, they're able to cycle people in and out as best they can. In terms of the closing hours, that was the operator wanted to close fairly early to respect one of the other tenants in the building, which is Options for Sexual Health, who generally start running around 4:35, so just to give some space there. In terms of one of the other options that came out of that meeting with the other services providers, the Syrian shelter, offered to open up early at 1 p.m. So they did that during the heat wave. I don't know if that's still operating. I think that was just a response to the hot weekend and into Monday. But they normally open at 5 p.m. So they opened up for folks staying the night there at 1.
A lot of the messaging around the cooling center suggests it's primarily targeted at those who are experiencing homelessness. I'm wondering what supports there have been for other vulnerable demographics from the city.
Yeah, great question. So the city did have a cooling center at Evan Park that's open today, and it was open yesterday as well. And just finding the, I think, so that's at Bowen. That has a capacity of about 50 people, and it's open from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. And the other response I understand is one of the seniors housing had an emergency, there's no other way to say it, with their cooling system. So those folks were welcomed into Oliver Woods in response to that.
And I'm also wondering what lessons the city has learned now that we're past the worst of this heat wave to apply to future ones, possibly even later this summer.
For sure. Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the things we've been talking about, so we are working on an extreme weather response plan. That would include both heat and cold through the winter as we go throughout this summer and into winter and future summers and winters beyond. So that's something where, again, we work with our partners in the community to identify funding opportunities and identify some of those gaps, and we're working on rolling that out soon. So that will, I should mention, the cooling center at 285 Prudhoe is funded for 2 weeks, so it'll be until July 10th, but we're looking at ways to keep that open in extreme weather days and beyond. So that's something in the works, for sure.
And are there any other elements about the city's response or anything else you want the public to know about how the city has handled the heat wave?
Certainly check our website. Again, it's got some information on there, as well as locations of water sources. Parks and Rec have also installed some misters in, I believe it's Mateo Sutton Park. And I just learned today that they're turning on all the fountains because of COVID. Some of the fountains that didn't have water bottle attachments were previously off. As the good news is, things are moving forward with COVID. They're able to turn those fountains on, so those should be operational by Friday.
All right. Thank you very much for taking some time to speak with me. Dave Stewart, social planner with the City of Nanaimo, on the local response to the heat wave. Now here's Canadian singer Julie Title with a brand new release called Heat Wave.
Store, thinking about the things you like. Lemonade, only the sweetest one. And I miss you in the morning. You in the morning. I'm going for a bike ride in the heat wave. Maybe it'll get my mind off things. I don't have an appetite and I feel strange. I keep pulling out more loose strings. Going for a bike ride in the heat wave. In the heat wave. Whiskey and smoke. I never dance with anyone, but you smell like home to me. Covered in hope, you break my heart over again. And I'm swimming, trying to see miss you in the morning and when I go to sleep. Yeah, I miss you in the morning. I'm going for a bike ride in the heat wave. Maybe it'll get my mind off things. I don't have an appetite and it feels strange. I keep pulling out more loose strings. Going for a bike ride in the heat wave. Maybe it'll get my mind off things. In the heat wave. In the heat wave. In the heat wave. Maybe it'll get my mind off things.
You're listening to Midcoast Morning. We're currently looking for a show sponsor. As a nonprofit, your contributions go directly towards supporting our news department and making sure we can continue to bring you the local stories you care about through an independent lens. Email sales@chly.ca. Summer is in full swing, and with it comes the return of one of North America's great pastimes, baseball. After a COVID hiatus last year, the Mid-Island Pirates of the BC Premier League recently kicked off their season. Earlier in the week, I went to see the Pirates in action on the road against the Parksville Royals. It was a cloudy morning at Springwood Park as the Pirates warmed up, but by first pitch, the skies had cleared and it was perfect weather for baseball. Before the game, I had the chance to talk with Pirates head coach Larson Bach about the league and the young season. Could you just be able to give me a bit of background about the BC Premier League?
Yeah, it's basically 12 teams spread across all the way from the Okanagan to the Lower Mainland to the island. We usually play in a full regular season schedule, 48 games, and then the playoff tournament into August. The league has been around for, don't quote me on this one, but over 25 years. You might want to do your research on that one.
Note, Coach Larson is on the money. The league started 26 years ago.
The goal of the league is basically to get kids ready for post-secondary education and continue on their their baseball career in post-secondary and get their education. Obviously, numerous kids have been drafted straight out of the league and some signed professional right away. It happens every once in a while. You get the odd prospect kid like that. But the main focus, I would say, would be to develop the kids and get them ready for post-second education.
And what was last year like, and how does it affect your planning for this one?
Obviously, last year, a limited amount of games. So when it comes down to the pitching game, pitchers especially, their workloads were minimized dramatically. So going into this year, you have to be cognizant of their workloads and how many pitches and how many innings they're logging. Because in an average season, you're looking to increase innings about 10 to 15%. So when you take into account last year being such a lull and not getting started really until middle July, late July, it plays a part in how many pitches and how many innings guys are logging.
And pitches and innings are an issue all across baseball up to the major leagues. How many innings are folks logging in the BC Premier League usually?
Usually, like your number one guy, your number 1-2 guy, they're going to get about between 10 and 12 starts. So they're going to be upwards of 60 plus innings. And that's just in the league. And then you factor in exhibition and the playoff tournament, they can get up to 75, 80 innings.
And is there like a pitch count typically for one single game?
No, not. That's a subjective question. Everybody's different. Every arm is different. Some guys max out at 90, some guys max out at 100, and then you get the odd guy that's kind of your horse that can get stronger as the game evolves or goes along, and he can get up to 110, 115 pitches. So you take your counts into play. And just what's happening in the game and how his delivery is and where he's locating his pitches. Is he missing high, arm side, or is everything down? The way he's pitching and the way he's throwing dictates a lot of how long he carries into the game.
And are there any big differences between the game here and what some people might watch in the major leagues?
Yeah, obviously, size and strength first and foremost. Athleticism. I mean, the major leagues, you're talking about, the best of the best of the best, next level athletes from around the world. We're talking Canadian guys, strictly Canadian kids here. So, I mean, if you look at, historically in the BC Premier League, maybe 1 out of every 3 years there might be a guy that played in the Premier League to crack the big leagues. It gets better and better, and the league has progressed and evolved and gotten better. Those numbers continue to go up, and kids playing professional. But it's one thing to play at the professional level, and to crack the big leagues is a completely different level. And those talents only come around every so often. So, ultimately the goal is the big leagues for the kids, and that's a dream and aspiration they should all have. But at the same time, realistic expectations is get your education paid for and go on to post-secondary.
And is that the goal for most players on the team this year? What does that look like for a lot of guys on this year's team next year to keep playing baseball?
Yeah, it's good so far. We got 7 guys locked up, so it's been a really good year. That's the number one goal of the organization, is to move kids on to post-secondary and get their education paid for. That's how they give back to their parents who have devoted a lot of time and energy and money, is to get their education paid for and set them up for the rest of their lives. It's always nice when you can graduate university and have minimal or little debt and move forward in your life, rather than graduating university and being 6 figures in debt. That's the big picture at play. And ultimately, the kids still have to have that dream of playing in the big leagues, and they're always shooting for something. But like I said before, realistic expectations is get your education paid for.
And to get your education paid for, does that mean going to school in the States, in Canada? What does that look like specifically?
Yeah, both. But Canadian schools usually don't give out scholarships. UBC is a one-off for that. They will give scholarship money. But most of the money that the kids get are U.S. academic schools, or U.S. schools in general. So that's kind of where you get your money, is south of the border.
And anything else you'd like people to know about the BC Premier League or the Pirates this season?
Yeah, it's an exciting brand of baseball. The talented kids, it's really good baseball to watch. You never know. You come out and watch a game, and hopefully one day you'll see one of the kids on TV. That's always a hope. It's always a dream for all the kids. But it's a good brand of baseball to come out and watch. It's exciting. There's a lot of talent in the league. There's a lot of parity in the league. They're always good games. So it's a good way to bring your kids out and watch the games and see how the game's played.
I know we're in a bit of a weird COVID situation now, but are folks welcome to come out and check the games out in Nanaimo?
Yeah. Anybody can come out and watch games now. Whenever we're playing, parents and families and kids are welcome to come out and take a look.
Thanks so much, Coach.
All right, John.
It's all about playing ball and hopefully getting a college scholarship south of the border. But the big league dream is always present. Proof of that was Taylor Green, who threw out the first pitch. Green played for Parksville growing up and later made the big leagues with the Milwaukee Brewers, where he now works as a scout. Here's what he had to say to both teams before the game.
It's good to be back here. A lot of great memories from when I played here in high school, especially really good battles against Nanaimo. But I've been lucky enough in my baseball career now to play in all sorts of different leagues and go watch different leagues. And the Premier League is one of the best leagues I've ever seen run in North America. Just when I was in high school, I got to play. There was myself and 2 other guys that got to play in the big leagues from this league. And when we were standing in these dugouts, we had no idea. We had no idea it was going to happen. So just keep working hard, keep having fun, and I'm glad you guys get a summer season this year. And good luck to everybody.
There are all the hallmarks of a great ballpark atmosphere. Concessions. Oh, can I go double chocolate? A lively crowd. Batter walk-up songs. And of course, the game itself. Because of time constraints with another event, I can only catch the first inning. But it has almost everything. Walks, strikeouts, hits, hit batters, smooth glove work. The big highlight is a 3-run double to the outfield wall that puts Parksville on top. I step away with the Pirates coming up to bat and looking to get back into the game. I wish I could stay and catch the rest of the doubleheader, the first live sports I've seen in almost 2 years. And it's something we can't take for granted. The Nanaimo Night Owls were supposed to start play in the West Coast Baseball League this year, but COVID scuttled those plans. So the Pirates are the only show in town. Because of all that, I think it's fair to say that whether Parksville or Nanaimo come out on top, the game of baseball in BC is the real winner. For CHLY, I'm Joe Pugh.
Last night in my dream, that's still the closest you and I have been. That's kind of sad, don't you think? I think so. How did I fall in love with someone I don't know? Conversations in my head. How did I fall in love with someone I don't know? I don't know. I don't know. There's so much going on. My grandmother's dead, and I can't sleep 'cause this isn't my bed. And he doesn't even know those things exist. How did I fall in love with someone I don't know? I don't know. Just meet him and get it over. I'll just keep wearing his name on my shirt. Whatever I need just to help me cope. How did I fall in love with someone I don't know? How did I fall in love with someone? Fall in love with someone I don't know. How did I fall in love with someone I don't know? How did I fall in love with someone I don't know? How did I fall in love with someone I don't know? How did I fall in love with someone?
Faye Webster, A Dream with a Baseball Player, another new release. You're listening to Midcoast Morning on CHLY. This past week, Duncan, British Columbia became Vancouver Island's first bee city, committing to protect pollinators. To find out what all the buzz is about, I chatted with Vicki Wojcik, the director at Pollinator Partnership Canada. What does it mean exactly to be a bee city?
I'm so glad you asked, because it's a really big step and a pledge to protect pollinators, which sounds like a really tall order. It's actually achieved through a relatively straightforward and simple set of pillars and guidelines that these cities sign on to. So to be a bee city, you have to do three things. You have to make habitat for pollinators in your city. You have to do some outreach to the people in your town, in your city, to businesses, to everyone, to tell them how important and how great pollinators are. And you have to celebrate pollinators once a year during Pollinator Week, which just passed recently. And, it might sound a tiny bit simple, but those actions are incredibly powerful in helping cities be homes for pollinators, which are vital for our survival and for the food we eat.
And it's not just cities that can be bee cities. There are also campuses and schools. I know VIU here in Nanaimo is a bee campus, a bee university. What is the difference between a bee city, a bee campus? What sorts of things do those smaller institutions do to make them pollinator friendly?
It's actually phenomenally similar. It's just working within the governing body. So our bee campuses and our bee schools have the same set of pillars they adhere to, just with the tools that they have for their size and their scope. So make sure there's habitat on your campus. We focus on university campuses and college campuses because they often do have really wonderful grounds that you can walk around and enjoy. And there's so much effort put towards planting and gardening. And if we just make sure that the plants that are planted are native species that provide food for pollinators, that are not just ornamental, but really have an ecological function, that's a step forward. And of course, if we're talking about gardening and landscape management, we encourage the elimination of pesticides from the tools that you use to deal with pests. And we really focus on making sure that there's other habitat options for pollinators. So not just their food, but their homes, which are leaves and twigs and branches, all that kind of messy garden stuff.
I've heard you don't need to rake your leaves in the fall. Is that true? That will somehow help the bees?
It sure does. It helps them. You do not need to rake your leaves in the fall. That leaf litter actually provides great habitat for a lot of pollinators, including bees, especially bees like bumblebees that will make their nests in piles of leaves at the bases of plants. There are other solitary bees that will nest in the ground, and those leaves just provide really good habitat. So leave them. Don't let them bug you too much.
Is there anything else I can not do around my garden to help out the bees? Maybe like not pull some dandelions out of the lawn, or any other way I can be lazy?
Right. And so, I give you a whole list of things you could do, but there's also a list of don't do this because it's actually better. And if you slow down on how much you're mowing, so mow less, or choose not to mow some areas at all. Choose not to weed out species that are not noxious weeds. They just might not have been planted by you, especially in the spring. A lot of those species are providing food for bees. So let the grass grow a little bit. Don't be worried if, like, in your lawn, there's a little bit of clover or dandelion. That's all great for the bees.
And it feels like we've been hearing about the disappearance of the bees for almost half of my life. Maybe that's just as soon as I grew up, I was aware of it. I'm wondering, how are the bees doing right now in 2021? Is the situation as bad as it's ever been?
Well, I'm going to say it's not ideal. And the reason is because there's a lot of bees out there. So in Canada, we have more than 900 species of bees. And a lot of them, we don't even know how they're doing because we're not paying enough attention. We're not monitoring their populations. So for the ones that we do know, we know that there's a bunch that aren't doing well. There's some that unfortunately have been extinct from their range. So we no longer have them in Canada. Some cases, they still have populations in the United States. So bees are facing a lot of challenges. And one of them is habitat loss combined with climate change, which is changing the availability of their food. For example, plants are blooming at a different time or maybe for a shorter period. So the bees are not doing 100%, but they can do really well if we just give them a helping hand. What's really causing declines in pollinators is a lack of habitat. So if we provide it for them, either by planting it or by managing our landscapes a certain way to enhance the habitat, we're helping.
And we've talked about planting or in some cases just not getting rid of flowers, but are there any other steps people can take to help out the bees?
Well, so I talk a lot about habitat because it's really important, but there's a bunch of choices you can make too. Some of your consumer habits can be changed or shifted. to be better for bees. So you can choose to buy food more locally, reduce that carbon footprint, because climate change is a huge factor impacting pollinators. You can also focus on buying food from farmers that are bee-friendly certified, or practice other habitat sustainability, regenerative agriculture models where they're doing extra habitat for the bees. And you can also help by supporting local groups that you know that work in wildlife conservation, work in native plant conservation, all of those areas. So habitat's important, but it's not just habitat. It's choices about what we eat and where we show our support that can make a difference for the bees.
And is there anything else you would like people to know about the bees and being a bee city?
Well, I think one of the great things is celebrating that you're a bee city. So what you'll notice is all of our bee cities in Canada have a sign that tells you they're a bee city. They're letting you know that not only are they making a difference, they're proud of it, and they want you to know it. So I think the outreach component is really, really huge. We have 53 bee cities right now, and if you're not one of them, you can become one. If you go to our website, beecitycanada.org, there's a few tips on how you can encourage your municipality, be that, you might be a big city, you might be a more rural town, you might be a First Nation. All of these organizations can become bee cities and help the bees.
Vicki, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about the bees.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Vicki Wojcik, Director at Pollinator Partnership Canada, on Duncan becoming the first bee city on Vancouver Island. That's our show for today. Thank you for listening. Midcoast Morning is hosted and produced by Joe Pugh, with headlines from Elijah Robinson. Thank you to Jesse Woodward and Arbie for production assistance. Our theme music is Good Company from Nanaimo band Venice. You can find their music on Bandcamp. You can help support Midcoast Morning as a project of CHLY's news department by making a donation at chly.ca/donate. In honor of the bees, we play you out with Wolf Parade, Kissing the Beehive. Please don't kiss any beehives in real life. Thanks again for listening.
So without a rifle, head to tear at the sky.